She's 11 years old. Every day, she climbs 800 meters of vertical cliff just to get to school. No railings, no safety ropes, just a wooden ladder. But she says this is normal. At minus 40 degrees Celsius, death comes fast. But 2,000 people call this home. They're not just surviving, they're thriving. Building businesses, raising families, living with a freedom most of us have forgotten. This is Mongolia, where the unthinkable is just another Tuesday. Over the next 20 minutes, I'm going to show you 3 people who've solved a puzzle that shouldn't have a solution. And by the end, you'll understand something about human capability that changes everything. But first, you need to see just how impossible this place really is. To understand how people don't just survive here, but actually thrive, you need to know where here really is. Mongolia. Everyone thinks they know what this word means. Empty. Dead. Forgotten. They're wrong. Landlocked between Russia and China. 3 times the size of France, but with fewer people than the city of Phoenix. It's one of the coldest places on Earth. Winters hit minus 40 degrees. Summers scorch at 40 degrees. That's an 80-degree swing. The kind of temperature range that breaks machines, cracks concrete, kills almost everything. The landscape? Mountains that touch the sky in the north. Deserts that stretch beyond sight in the south. And between them, the steppe, vast grasslands stretching beyond the horizon, an ocean of grass so vast you could drive for days and see nothing but distance. Most of the country sits over 1,500 meters above sea level, higher than Denver, thinner than Comfort. The air is thin. The sun is brutal. Water is scarce. This is not a place that welcomes life. Here's what nobody expected. 800-year-old nomadic traditions wired for the 21st century. A herder checks livestock prices on a smartphone powered by a solar panel strapped to his joe. His children attend university in the capital, then return to help manage the herd using GPS trackers. Ancient traditions power modern businesses. Both survive. Both thrive. This is the second harshest place on Earth. Only Antarctica is worse. But unlike Antarctica, this place has people. And they're not leaving. How the unthinkable became daily life. You're about to meet 3 people who prove it. A nomadic family surviving winters that kill millions of animals. A young man who found freedom by owning almost nothing. And a grandmother who's watched everything change, yet insists nothing important has. Their stories will show you what's possible when refusing to give up is the only option you have. The first person you need to meet? He's facing something that would kill most of us in hours. From this vast steppe, we journey north to the place where winter doesn't just arrive, it attacks. Where minus 40 degrees isn't a weather report. It's a death sentence. Unless you know what Baatar knows. Meet Baatar, 4th generation herder. He's 43 years old and has spent every winter of his life preparing for the Zood. You probably haven't heard that word. Zood. In Mongolian, it means disaster winter. The kind that kills millions of animals in a single season. The kind that can destroy a family's entire livelihood overnight. Last winter, 2023 to 2024, the Zood killed 7.1 million livestock across Mongolia. Sheep, goats, horses, cattle, gone. Baatar los 200 animals. His neighbors lost everything. And I need to tell you something about his neighbors, something that will make sense later. But first, you need to see how Baatar survived. His family survived. His core herd survived. And here's why. He started preparing 6 months before the first snow fell. Watch how he does it. Remember that puzzle I mentioned? Baatar's about to show you the first piece. In July, while the steppe is still green, Baatar begins stockpiling hay. Not just enough for winter, enough for the winter after the winter fails. He's thinking 2 years ahead, while most people think 2 weeks ahead. In August, he moves his herd to the southern pastures, the ones sheltered by hills, the ones where snow doesn't drift as deep. Location matters more than luck. In September, he reinforces his winter shelters. Gers, traditional felt homes, alone won't save animals at minus 40 degrees. He builds windbreaks from stone and earth. Simple, effective, ancient. In October, he culls the weak animals, the ones that won't make it through winter anyway. It's brutal. But keeping them alive would cost resources that could save the strong. In November, the first snow falls. He's ready. His family is ready. The herd is ready. But preparation isn't the whole story. December brings the real test. The temperature drops to minus 35 degrees, then minus 40, then lower. The wind cuts through everything. Water freezes solid. The ground becomes iron. Here's what most outsiders don't understand. Cold this extreme isn't just uncomfortable. It's mathematically lethal. At minus 40 degrees, an animal needs 3 times its normal calories just to maintain body temperature. If you can't provide that, the animal dies. Simple physics. Baatar's daughter got sick in January. Fever, chills. The nearest clinic was 3 hours away across frozen steppe. The roads were impassable. He called a friend with a better truck. Together, they broke through. His daughter recovered. But that moment, that's when the community network matters more than any individual preparation. Remember I mentioned Baatar's neighbors? The ones who lost everything? Here's what happened to them. Mongolia's survival secret isn't rugged individualism. It's calculated cooperation. When one family's livestock dies, neighbors share their herd's offspring. When one gir's roof collapses, 5 families arrive to rebuild it. When the Zood comes, they face it together. 3 families. Total loss. But they didn't leave Mongolia. They didn't give up herding. Within 2 years, they'd rebuilt their herds, not from loans, not from charity, but from the community network Baatar's grandfather taught him about. Because nobody faces winter alone. That's not just survival. That's a system. Baatar's grandfather taught him something. Hope for the best, prepare for the worst, and never face winter alone. That's not just poetry. That's a system. A system refined over 1,000 years of winters that would kill most humans in hours. But here's what most people miss about survival. Baatar doesn't live in the past. He uses weather apps. He follows climate forecasts. He networks with herders across Mongolia using social media. Ancient wisdom wired for the modern world. His solar panel powers his phone. His phone connects him to markets where he sells cashmere, soft wool from goats, for premium prices to international buyers. His traditional skills make him money in ways his grandfather never imagined. The unthinkable, that's just the starting condition. What you do with it, that's what defines survival. Baatar's minus 40 is literal. What's yours? But surviving winter is just one piece of this story. 600 kilometers south, in the Gobi Desert, someone found a completely different answer to the same question. From the frozen north, we journey to the opposite extreme. The Gobi Desert, where summer temperatures hit 40 degrees, where water is more valuable than gold, where emptiness takes on a whole new meaning. This is where Enkh chose to live. Meet Enkh. He's 28. 5 years ago, He left Ulaanbaatar, the capital, with a good job, a nice apartment, and a life that looks successful from the outside. He owns 300 items. Total, that's 50 pieces of clothing, 30 kitchen tools, 80 books, 40 tech items, and 100 personal objects. Everything he needs. Nothing he doesn't. Before we go further, I need to tell you something about what those 300 items replaced. In Ulaanbaatar, Enkh had everything. A tech company job, an apartment filled with furniture, gadgets, clothes he never wore, books he'd never read. He was making good money. On paper, he was winning. But 6 months into that life, something broke. He describes it like this: I had everything, but I owned nothing. The things owned me. Here's the thing about freedom. Most people get backwards. More isn't freedom. More is maintenance. More is insurance. More is worry. More is time spent managing, protecting, replacing. Enkh discovered something. Every object you own costs you twice. Once when you buy it, and again every day after in attention, space, and mental load. So he made a bet. What if he removed everything that wasn't essential? What would be left? The answer? Freedom. He moved to the Gobi with 300 items, a laptop, and a plan to consult remotely for tech companies. His tech consulting brings in $3,000 a month, 6 times Mongolia's average salary of $500. His costs? Babe million. The rest? Freedom. But here's where it gets interesting. This isn't a story about sacrifice. It's a story about subtraction, revealing what was always there. When I asked Enkh what he misses most about city life, he paused for a long time. Then he started crying. Not because he missed anything, because for the first time in 6 months living in Ulaanbaatar, someone had asked his name. In the city, he said, I was a function. Customer, employee, user, subscriber. Nobody said my name for 6 months. Here, everyone knows my name. Everyone knows my story. I went from having everything to having enough. And that's freedom. That's not minimalism as aesthetic. That's minimalism as strategy. Here's what Enkh's 300 items actually do. They buy him 16 hours a day. No commute. No maintenance. No shopping. No organizing. No replacing. Just time. just choice, just freedom. He works 4 hours a day. The rest? Reading, hiking, helping neighbors, learning traditional skills from elders, building relationships that matter. His gur, his traditional felt home, costs $50 a month to heat, even in winter. His solar panel cost $300 once. His water comes from a community well. His food comes from trading skills with herders. The Gobi didn't give him freedom. Subtraction did. The Gobi just made it obvious. But here's what shocked me. Enkh isn't running from modern life. His laptop is top spec. His internet is satellite. He's connected to the entire world while living in one of the most remote deserts on Earth. He chose isolation, not disconnection. He chose simplicity, not poverty. He chose enough, not less. And that choice, that's available to anyone. You don't need the Gobi Desert. You just need to ask, what am I maintaining that isn't serving me? Enkh found liberation by releasing everything that wasn't essential. But not everyone finds meaning through letting go. Two people, two solutions to the same impossible landscape. Baatar prepares. Enkh subtracts. But there's a third person you need to meet. Someone who's watched Mongolia transform completely over 60 years. And she says nothing important actually changed. How can both be true? From this desert, we journey north again to the Altai Mountains, 4,000 meters above sea level, where golden eagles soar and ancient traditions refuse to die. This is where Sarangerel hunts. Meet Sarangerel. She's 45. Third-generation eagle huntress. And she's solving a problem most people don't even know exists. Eagle hunting isn't tradition for tradition's sake. It's a solution. Trained eagles catch foxes that threaten livestock. No eagles equals more losses. More losses equals can't survive winter. Ancient technique. Modern necessity. That's the pattern. But here's what makes Sarangerel different. She's not choosing between worlds. She's building a bridge. Her smartphone has GPS tracking for eagle territories. She updates her hunting logs digitally. She sells her knowledge to tourists through a booking app she manages herself. But the training method? Unchanged for 12 generations. She captures young eagles in autumn, trains them through winter, hunts with them for 7 years, then releases them to breed. The cycle continues. Here's what that means in numbers. She's trained 8 eagles over 20 years. Each eagle caught 50 plus foxes. That's 400 plus foxes eliminated. At $100 of prevented livestock loss per fox, that's $40,000 in value created, using a method invented centuries ago. Enhanced by tools invented this decade. That's not tradition versus technology. That's tradition amplified by technology. Her 4-year-old granddaughter is learning now. 7th generation. The method doesn't change. The tools do. When I ask Sarangerel if she worries about the future, she looked confused. The future? She said. The future is my granddaughter holding an eagle. The future is GPS telling us where the foxes are. The future is tourists paying to watch us hunt, which funds conservation. The future doesn't require forgetting the past. It requires understanding what's worth keeping. 300 years ago, her ancestors hunted these same mountains on horseback with eagles. No technology except skill, knowledge, and relationship with the birds. Today, still horseback, still eagles, still skill. Plus satellite weather forecasts, plus veterinary care for the birds, plus global markets for their services. The core didn't change. The context did. And that made the core stronger. This is Mongolia, where 800-year-old traditions power 21st century businesses, where ancient wisdom gets upgraded, not replaced, where the question isn't tradition or progress. It's tradition plus progress. Sarangerel taught me something Baatar and Enkh had shown me in different ways. Survival isn't about choosing one thing. It's about integrating everything that works. Preparation, subtraction, selection. 3 people, 3 approaches, same unlivable landscape, same outcome, thriving. But what's the pattern underneath? Let me show you something. 3 locations, 3 people, 3 strategies. But watch what happens when you look at them together. Baatar survives -40 by preparing 6 months ahead. He's not reacting to winter. He's respecting winter. Enkh survives the desert by owning 300 items. He's not sacrificing comfort. He's eliminating distraction. Sarangerel survives by keeping 12 generations of knowledge alive while using this decade's tools. She's not choosing sides. She's integrating both. 3 lessons, and they apply to more than Mongolia. Lesson 1. Preparation isn't paranoia. It's respect for reality. That's Baatar watching winter come. Not scared. Just ready. First thing Baatar taught me, you can't control conditions, but you can control your response to conditions. Start building systems now for problems coming later. Lesson 2. Liberation isn't having more. It's needing less. That's Enkh crying because someone said his name. Because connection matters more than consumption. Here's the thing about freedom. Every object you own owns a piece of your attention. Count your possessions. If you haven't used something in a year, you don't own it. It owns you. Start with 10 items. Subtract. Lesson 3. The future doesn't require abandoning the past. It requires understanding what's worth keeping. That's Sarangerel holding 800 years of knowledge in one hand and a smartphone in the other. Both work. Both matter. What's one tradition worth keeping? What's one modern tool that amplifies it? That's your starting point. 3 strategies. Same underlying system. When you can't change the conditions, you change your relationship to them. Preparation, subtraction, integration. That's how the unthinkable becomes daily life. And here's what connects all 3. None of them are waiting for conditions to get easier. They're not hoping the climate becomes milder, the economy more forgiving, the choices more clear. They're working with what is, not what should be. Now let me ask you something. What's your -40? What's the impossible condition in your life right now? The thing you can't change, can't escape, can't make go away no matter how much you wish it would? Maybe you can't answer yet. That's okay. But I can show you where to start looking. And if your unlivable challenge includes Mongolia, if you want to see this for yourself, here's exactly how to make it happen. Visas first. US, EU, and most Asian citizens get 30 days visa-free. Arrive, stamp, go. Longer stays need advance application, but Mongolia makes it easy. They want visitors. Flights to Ulaanbaatar from major Asian hubs, Seoul, Beijing, Tokyo. I paid $450 from Seoul. That's less than most people spend on a weekend trip to nowhere special. From Europe or North America, expect $800 to $1,200. Book early. Routes are limited. Once you're there, You have two options: tour or independent. Tours are easier, safer, more expensive. A week-long organized tour runs $1,000 to $2,000 depending on comfort level. They handle logistics, translation, permits for national parks. You show up and experience. Independent travel is cheaper, more flexible, more challenging. Rent a car with a driver, about $100 per day. Or take local buses, cheap but slow and unpredictable. You'll need basic Russian or Mongolian phrases. English works in Ulaanbaatar, nowhere else. Accommodations in Ulaanbaatar range from $20 a night hostels to $200 luxury hotels. Outside the capital, you're staying in Jer camps. Tourist Jers run $30 to $80 per night. They include meals, basic facilities, cultural experiences. Or do what I did. Stay with nomadic families. Homestays cost $15 to $30 per night. You eat what they eat, sleep where they sleep. Experience actual nomadic life, not the tourist version. Book through local agencies or find them through travel forums. Food is safe. Meat heavy. Mutton, beef, horse, goat. Dairy products. Lots of fermented mare's milk if you're brave. Vegetables are scarce outside cities. $20 fed me better in Mongolia than $50 does in New York. Street food in the capital is cheap and excellent. In 3 weeks, the only thing I lost was my assumption that harsh places make hard people. Mongolians are warm, just prepared. Crime is low. People are welcoming. The real dangers are environmental, extreme weather, remote locations, limited medical facilities. Get good insurance. $100,000 minimum medical coverage. Include evacuation. What to pack? Layers. Serious layers. Even summer nights drop to 5 degrees Celsius. Sun protection. UV is intense at this altitude. Good boots. The terrain is rough. First aid kit. Mongolian pharmacies are limited outside the capital. Must-see places. Gobi Desert. Obviously, 3 days minimum. Terelj National Park, 2 hours from the capital, perfect for first-timers. Lake Khövsgöl, Mongolia's blue pearl, stunning, remote. The ancient capital Karakorum, history, monasteries, museums. But here's what I'd actually recommend. Skip the standard tourist route. Find a local guide. Ask them to take you to their family's land. Spend 3 days with a real herding family. Help with livestock. Learn to make airag, That's the fermented mare's milk. Ride horses across the steppe with no destination. That's not on any tour package. That's not in any guidebook. But that's where you'll understand what this video has been trying to show you. The unthinkable isn't some abstract concept here. It's daily life. And daily life, when you strip away everything else, is just people solving problems with whatever tools they have and refusing to give up when it gets hard. You can't learn that from a tour bus window. You learn it by sitting in a jar at minus 30 degrees, drinking salty tea, watching a family prepare for winter that could kill everything they own, and realizing they're not scared. They're just ready. One more thing. Bring cash. US dollars or Chinese yuan. Credit cards work in the capital, nowhere else. ATMs are rare outside Ulaanbaatar. Cash is king. Cultural respect. Take your shoes off entering Jers. Walk clockwise inside. Don't point your feet at the hearth or at people. Accept food and drink with your right hand or both hands. Never refuse hospitality. It's offensive. And when someone offers you airag, you drink it. Even if it tastes like sour, alcoholic horse sweat, you drink it. You smile. You say Bayar Lala, thank you. That respect will open doors no tour company can. Mongolia isn't easy. It's not comfortable. It's not Instagrammable in the way you think. But it's real. It's raw. It's a place where you can still see what humans are capable of when everything is stripped away except will and skill and community. So go, figure out the logistics, book the flight, pack the layers, and go see for yourself what thriving in the unthinkable actually looks like. Because these stories I've been telling you, they're not special. They're normal. That's the point. The unlivable is just normal life when you refuse to accept that impossible means no. Before you go, 3 things nobody tells you about visiting places that shouldn't exist. 1. The people living there don't think it's impossible. You do? 2. What makes it unlivable for you is what makes it normal for them. 3. That gap? That's where the lesson lives. Mongolia isn't impossible. It's just different impossible than yours. And if this changed how you see impossible, there's more. Next, villages built on vertical cliffs in China. Children walking tightropes to school. Grocery shopping means climbing 800 meters of ladder. Same question. Different, impossible. Click here. Let's find the next one. Remember where we started? Empty, dead, forgotten. You've seen different. 3 people, 3 strategies. Same system. When you can't change conditions, you change your relationship to them. Preparation, subtraction, integration. That's how impossible becomes normal. So, what's your minus 40? If this changed how you see impossible, I'd love to have you along for the journey. Thanks for watching.